My 20s run out on Saturday, and so to cope, here are 5 books from my 20s that changed my life forever. Let's dive in. Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez has to be up there as a game changer for me. I think it really pivoted how I look at storytelling in general. It opened and expanded my mind and how I can even conceptualize narrative perspective. I love this story. I love the characters from this story. It is definitely outside of the box of what I think a traditional fantasy story would present, and I highly recommend it for everybody, and I'm glad that I read it in my 20s. Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wong is devastating in a life-changing way, but it's also very eye-opening, I think, to a lot of different concepts about life. From gender roles to motherhood to societal expectations, deeply disturbing effects that patriarchy can have on not only women, but also men who perpetuate it. It is also filled with really cool sword fights. It takes a traditional magic system and really enhances it in a way that is super special. It pulls zero punches, it tells an action-packed story, and I just would not be the same had I not read this story. Light of All That Falls by James Islington. If you've been following my page for any amount of time, you'll know that James Islington is one of my favorite authors and that the Lycaeus trilogy is actually my favorite series of all time. I love this story. I cried for like 3 days at the end of this book in particular. I don't think there's ever been a book series where I was so devastated that it was over. Like my mind and my heart just could not accept that there was no more story to be read about these characters. I do miss the part of my life where I was reading this series. Martyr by Kaveh Akbar is actually a very recent read for me. I just read this in January, so really at the finish line of my 20s. While I really liked this book as I was reading it, I was very surprised at how long it's kind of lingered in the back of my mind. I find myself always thinking about the main character Cyrus and just the meaning of life, the meaning of death, and just how to do the most with what we have and how to process grief. And it's just a really important story that I just think more people should read, and I'm just really glad that I read this book when I did. And last but definitely not least, we have The Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. The Stormlight Archive is actually the very first epic fantasy series I ever read. Words of Radiance is my favorite book from the Stormlight Archive. I just had never had an experience like that reading something so literally epic before, and really allowing me to dive into the fantasy genre without fear. Now I read a ton of fantasy all the time. Those are 5 books that really changed my life. I love to hear about books that changed your life, so please feel free to comment any recommendations, and happy reading.